thank you for coming, and you know, I see a lot of familiar faces, but I do see some new people out in the audience. So with a raise of hand, who has not dealt with FPL FiberNet before? And Vicki, if you don't mind, those that raise their hand, you will get a copy of the presentation in case you want to take notes. Those that have already been selling FiberNet, I'll try to throw some extra things in there so that we can make it interactive and fun. I pulled up our map because I'd like to show you guys what we do when you guys send us an email. And how we qualify the opportunity. So anybody got an address they want to give me? Oh, don't be shy. Come on, people. Who's got a TCG? What's your address? Do what?
I have one. 480 West 83rd Street. Hialeah.
Hialeah. Line of sight.
Not too far. So let me.
They have 2 illegal fish
So what we do is we find the address, we click it, and we draw to our fiber.
0.21 miles?
Yep.
That's how far is that? Quarter of a mile.
0.21. So what we're going to do is tell you on a 10 meg circuit, we're not going to be competitive.
Unless
So,
you find some other opportunities.
right. So you can tell there's somebody that's been selling FiberNet for a couple of years that knows the tricks.
Can you try
So,
another address?
okay.
Okay, 12186 Southwest 128th Street.
12186 Southwest.
Yeah, 12186 Southwest 128th Street.
Suite number.
Oh, and I don't think I turned my mic on, guys, so let me know if I need to or not.
Too far.
So what would Vicki say? She'd say, no, unfortunately, we can't help you with that one.
Has to be what, 0.18?
It has to be within, to be smaller bandwidth, which we consider a 10 meg smaller bandwidth, we need to be 0.125 from the network.
We need to be 1/16 of a mile.
So,
often are. You often are.
and often we are. So, I mean, you know, so far we're striking 0 on our addresses, but to,
So what if you have a 50 meg or 100 meg?
Like 100 megabit or
On
200
something that
megabit?
far.
What about
We
1688?
used to go out, Brenda,
Brenda.
do you want to explain to some of them that have been part of this? We used to go out a further distance,
right.
but we realized that it was not cost effective. So we've lowered, if you've all noticed, we've lowered all of our pricing, but we brought it in closer to what we can build out for our
It used
cost.
to be half a mile, didn't it?
No, it used to be a quarter of a mile.
Quarter of a mile.
Yep. So what we do though, and you know, Brad and Eric have been around for years with us. If you have clients that have a big project and it's coming up in a year, let us know. Let's start building the highway now. We can go prospect along the route. We'll build. We've worked on a project in Weston for 3+ years. We are now putting about 5 miles of fiber in Weston to light one of our clients. And it was just continued looking at what are the opportunities along the route, who else could we pick up? And we did a strategic presentation to our company, and they bought off on spending probably close to $500,000 to bring this one client onto our network. So it's not like we're not willing to do it for the right client, for the right bandwidth. So, I mean, and if you look, you know, the beauty of our network in the Tri-County area, which I consider West Palm Beach down, we have a lot of fiber, and it continues to grow. There's some really exciting news in the future. Houston will look very similar to this in fiber density, probably in 2 years. We've got a 2 to 3 year plan out there. And then we'll need to go find a lot of business partners out there. And I might be flying out to Texas on a more regular basis. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys the back office. We have 3 people that are supporting the channel partners. This is what we do. Clarabelle, you weren't in the room, so come on up here, or everybody turn around and say hello to Clarabelle. She's a little shy. She's only joined us about 120 plus years ago. It might feel like years already. You know, Vicky's been with us for 3 years in the channel, and I've been with the company 8 years. And we have actually a new employee in the audience, one of our sales engineers, Guillermo. And, you know, we're really happy that he's joined us. We now have 5 engineering resources to help. So one of the cool things about our team, the 3 of us, is we're 100% channel. This is what we do. We support you. That's all we do. We don't go out and find our own clients. In fact, sometimes, actually, Braden and Eric got a lead from Vicky a couple years ago, and because she was like, "Hey, I can't get into this guy. Can you help me out?" And I think we're finally turning them up this month after all this time. So there are times when a partner will bring us an opportunity, and we may reach out and say, "Hey, anybody else have someone in this building or along this route?" Because if we help each other, we can all be successful. So our team is just here to support 100% your endeavors, you know. So go ahead.
Do you have a building list or an access to a building list?
Yes, we do. So on our website there is one, but what I'll do is I'll send out one that you can actually, you know, it's in Excel, so you could actually scroll and search on. And you know, we'll put that as a notes for this meeting to send that out, and we'll have TCG, you know, blasted out to you guys. I heard a question earlier today on rules of engagement, so might as well get that out in the open from the get-go. When you come in and you bring us an opportunity, you tell us who the end user is, we go check our CRM. If no one's engaged or no one's gotten traction in the last 6 months, the channel requests that lead, and we work it, and hopefully, you know, we don't let it stall for 6 months so someone could try to take it back. If an enterprise rep is already engaged, we will then do the same thing as PGI and evaluate where we're at in the sales cycle. Is there a benefit to bringing the partner in? What's the relationship? And then decide, are we going to team, or are we going to bring it over to the channel only, or are we going to tell the channel partner no? So sometimes we do have to tell you no because, hey, we already have contracts in. Now guess what? If it stalls and we can't close it, we may come back out to you and say, hey, if we can leverage your relationship, let's do it. There is a compensation, you know, hit for an enterprise rep to work with a business partner. So usually they're only going to agree to do that if they think that that's the only way they're going to be able to close the opportunity. And we've done it. And you know, there's more opportunity to team today on larger opportunities than there were in the past. But if it's a one-site 10 meg opportunity, chances are the 3 of us are going to work it, or we'll toss it to you and that part, you know, that rep to work. Because it doesn't make sense to have that many resources on a smaller circuit. So what does our network look like? And let me actually,
One more drop.
oh, okay.
14200 Northwest 42nd Avenue in Opelika.
Oh, right now you're going to check my spelling. Well, no, that's not right. Oh,
Word locked with an A. Opa? Like Greek?
I don't know why it's not pulling it up. Oops.
I think that's it right there.
1P?
Yes.
Opa and then Laka
I agree. Allow that.
with the O. Two words.
Opa dash, Opa dash.
I think that's it right there.
Oh, well, that's on the airport property.
Yeah, it looks like an airport.
Yeah, so let's talk about airports, because we've gotten a lot of requests for airports. Airports have extremely stringent requirements, and some of them will let us in, and most of them will not let us in. We do have one of the airports up in the Boca area that we are in a building. Miami Airport, I've actually worked on a project with them where they were going to allow us in, but only to service them and no one else, because they want to restrict the usage and own the network. So, you know, it's a given, you know, airports are difficult unless you already have approval from that airport to bring in another fiber provider. So,
About 950 Peninsula Corporate Circle.
thank you. 950.
Peninsula Corporate Circle.
How many more leads are in the room pending?
Yeah, I mean, I got one.
There's about fire per computer.
So Oklahoma, you guys. You don't have a strong presence.
And the reason Brad knows that is that's his building that he's in. So,
It's not lit, but it's right next door, right?
well, no, actually, we're lit in your building now, and we're lit around that area. So, so that's what we do, and it's kind of fun. I've actually sat at golf courses and done this, and then people are like, "Why aren't you golfing?" Now I golf, so I'm not doing it anymore. They're doing it, but
10 meg quote for that 950 they're lit in that building.
635.
Plus the 50.
Well, plus the 15 for the IPs.
So 650.
Yep.
What address is that?
It's 950 Peninsula Corp.
Congress right there.
Yeah.
And what would 100 meg cost at that address?
Congress?
1325.
And because it's already lit, what's the install time frame on that?
30 to 60 days.
And if you were
Even in
point-
a lit building?
Well,
It all depends on how we lit it. When we originally pulled into that particular building, we weren't planning on like providing services to everybody. So some buildings, the newer buildings we're bringing on, we're planning to, you know what, put the heavy equipment in it so we can go everywhere. So some of the older buildings that we've had longer, we have to go in and replace that equipment so that we can do that. So, yeah.
But in the event that you were a little bit away, you don't tell us how far you are away from net when you're giving us your quotes.
No, because what we try to do is we don't like any surprises, right? So we're not going to give you a price and then go out and do a site survey and say, oh, by the way, it's going to cost you X more to provide our services. So everything's already baked in to the price that we give you. So,
But I guess it would be more helpful to know if it's on net at 650 and you can install in 30 days versus if it's
just ask
2
us.
miles away and it's going to take 90 to 120.
Right.
That sale's going to close faster on your
Yep.
30-day install time frame.
Yep.
So that would be really good
Okay.
to know.
So from now on, any request from TCG, we'll try to
I'm
put a
just saying
time
if it's on
frame.
net.
Right.
Or, yeah.
All
I
right,
mean, if
so
you
Right.
can,
We'll-
I'll
we'll
ask
let
you,
you-
don't
we'll
worry.
let
But
you
now that
know.
I know that you can
So
see that.
Right.
You don't usually know until the site survey, right?
Well, no. So here's the good and bad of that, right? We have a list. We have this, right?
Right.
But what we don't know is the projects we're currently working on that could have made that network on net and happen faster. So because of that, we're going to give you our best guesstimate. Also, what you're going to learn about us is we're going to be extremely conservative in what we tell you, right? What we can tell you is we're on net or, hey, we need permits. That's the one area that we have no control over. If we need permits, we're at the grace of the permitting department, right?
It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's a moving target. She can't give you a clear answer because it's kind of like a moving target. The good news is if it's lit, because then you're looking at a fast install.
Yeah.
But there's never a guarantee of 30 days because then they have to get
No,
the
no, I
building.
know.
The
I know.
building.
But lit versus
Yeah,
non-lit is.
No, but then they need to get the building to sign off. And
Yeah, yeah.
right now we have one that's lit, should be able to be 30 days, but we now need to hear back from the building owner to approve it, which can delay.
All that red tape
Yeah,
can delay it
yeah.
months.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So is that why, I mean, why I see some blue, some green,
No,
some purple?
so yeah, so there's different fiber in our network, right? There's aerial fiber, there's buried, there's backbone fiber. So we, you know, we depict it also, this fiber that's right here, that's a new build. So,
It's in the future,
yeah.
you mean? Oh,
and so in the past, and I haven't done this in a long time, but we used to have 3 and 4 mile bills. So I would send that out to the partners and say,
get ready to sell.
hey, we're about to do this. Tell us where to put the manholes. Where do you have clients? Because this would be a great greenfield area for you as a partner to go out and find clients, right? You know, being able to go in and knock on a door and say, hey, we know FiberNet's putting fiber in front of your building. You know, would you like to know about their services? You keep on. You want to come on up here, Graham?
No, you're handling it so well.
So,
You're gonna touch on your protected services as well.
yeah. So one of the other things that we talk about a lot with, especially the larger customers, is what are you doing for redundancy? What are you doing for, you know, are you bringing a 2-carrier option in? And some clients have opted for that, and it's been a great solution for them. But what we've also found is I had a client that was in Clearwater, and they had an office in West Palm Beach. They went with two-carrier option because they wanted that redundancy between carriers. Guess what? A fiber cut took both of us out in West Palm Beach. So guess what? His redundancy did not work. You know, so what we did is we did a dual entrance bill to them in Clearwater, Florida, and in West Palm Beach. And now they're 100% on our network with total protection. So a 2-carrier option is not always the best solution for your client. Because
especially when there are other carriers that won't provide the, let's say, that won't provide the fiber path. You know, if you guys have ever worked with AT&T, you can't very well just go and ask them for, hey, where does the fiber go down? Right. So there's a huge leap of faith that has to be, you know, required for that. Whereas with FiberNet, you know, we'll draw it out. You'll know exactly where it'll go. You'll know whether it's buried or it's aerial. All that information is completely available. So you're much more empowered in the sale, and you can absolutely give a certain level of assurance to the customer because they know which path it goes. And if you're doing a dual entrance, the customer will be able to positively visually confirm that one route goes north and the other route goes south.
But that would only protect you in case of a fiber cut, for example. But if you have a network outage for whatever reason, it doesn't matter, dual entrance or whatever, you're still going to go down if you have one carrier.
That's
So-
the beauty of us, right? Because
Yeah.
we can give you network edge electronics, core electronics. We can give you, when we say protection, we talk about protection from the customer prem all the way into the core. So we can absolutely do that.
yeah, we had a university a couple years ago that was going to host the presidential debates. And one of the things that we offered them is we were going to move our core network on-prem so that if there was anything, they would never go down, right? Unless someone blew up the building, right? They didn't opt for that because we couldn't do the POTS lines and the other things that they needed for that event. But it's kind of cool, the fact that we are willing to sometimes place our core network or extend our core network. So for those of you that have been selling us for a while, one of the new products that we've come out with is something called FPL Fiber Connect. We have now moved our core network to incorporate the data centers for the cloud providers. So I was talking to the product manager the other day, and she was saying, yeah, you know, we're bringing our network to our clients, or the cloud providers to our clients. And I said, no, we've extended our network to those providers, and now they're in our network. And it's going to be a huge difference. I mean, today we saw the spinning wheel, right? And we're waiting and waiting, and we've had that with our CRM application. So what we've done is, instead of using the internet to get to your cloud provider, we can now provide your clients a private network up to that cloud. So it's private. It's not, you know, oversubscribed. You know, the internet, once you hit it, it's there, right? It's so big, and if it's a congested day in a territory. We were at a meeting yesterday where they said, oh, you can tell the peak times of the day and how the network works, right? And everybody's looking at their bars, and there's no bars on even on some of their cellular plans. We're going to go into that cloud, and we're going to provide a direct connection to it, so they won't have that latency. So we're expanding our network, and I've got some slides on that, all the way out to Virginia. There's a place in Dallas, and there's a place in Atlanta that will be connecting to those, so we can get to Azure's and Amazon and Microsoft. You know, Microsoft was brilliant, right? They went out to all these universities and said, hey, we're going to give you $365 to all your students. That was a nightmare for the IT guys in these colleges, because what does that mean? More bandwidth, more requirements. These students are going to be eating up the bandwidth like crazy. We had the archdiocese, we're in pretty good with them on a couple of the schools, and they said, hey, we're bringing in all of our administrators and all of our teachers. We've got, you know, they've got I think it's a 200 meg internet with us today just for the faculty, and they said, could you increase the speed for the day so that the experience of these administrators, and as we're doing presentations, and we said, yes, we can. And we turned up their network to a gig for the day. That client now has come back and said, you know what, let's just keep it. We don't want to give it back to you. We don't want to go back to 200 megs, which was already huge. When I started with them 5 years ago, they had 1.5 megs feeding a school. They now have 200 meg circuits, fully protected, diversely routed, no fiber cut will take them down, and now we're going to go up to a gig just for actually their students, and the teachers are on their own separate network because we were finding that the students were hacking into the network, so we've split them out and we've made it separate. So even to a customer, we can give them 2 internet circuits instead of 1, you know, and be able to keep things separate for them if they need it. So it's really, you know, if you can't tell, I'm passionate about this company, and I've been here for 8 years, and I just love what we can do, because throw away the traditional thinking. Throw away what you thought was, oh, this is the, you know, oh, you got to do it this way. No, come to us. Let's talk about it. Let's redesign the network. Tell us what your client wants to do. Vicki was at a meeting today. She was getting mixed messages from the client about what exactly were they trying to do. And probably because they thought, oh, this is the way it is, I have to design it this way. We went in and said, just tell us what you need. Let us redesign it. There's some sites out in California. We're not in California. We are in Texas. We are in Atlanta. We're up in New York now. But we're not in California, but we can get there using someone else's network. Well, why would that be a benefit? And most of the time, we don't even like to talk about the fact that we can reach those other sites. But we say it's okay because it's our NOC. And I would invite anyone to go down to our NOC in Doral and meet the people that run this network. They're all US based. They're sitting at our NOC, and these guys love this network more than anyone else that I've ever seen. I mean, and it takes them about 6 months to go through the interview process to bring on a new staff member, and I see why. Because if you're not passionate about it, you don't love this network, you can't work there. You know, and very few people ever call the NOC and say, hey, how's it going? Glad the network's up. You know, everybody calls them and something's wrong. I have gotten so many emails this year about what our NOC did for the business. We had another university that came to us and said, Erica's coming through and we need to increase the bandwidth to Atlanta. What can we do? In less than 24 hours, we turned it up to a gig. Well, actually, I don't think we had a gig capacity on the route that they were on, so I think we turned it up to like 500 megs for them and let them push their files up to the network. I had another client that said, the coolest thing that I've ever experienced is calling the NOC for the first time in 4 years. And he says, and usually I call Brenda, but she didn't answer the phone. She must have been coughing, so I called the NOC. And they said, hey, we sent you a notice that we were going to do maintenance on your fiber. And he's like, yeah, but I got a game. It's about to start. I need my network up. And they said, hold on a second. They called our field tech out in the field that was splicing and fusing the fiber, put him on the call with this guy, and they identified which fibers were his, and they did his first. He says, I've never, in the years and years that I have been with a carrier, ever gotten that much of a transparency, all the way down to a field tech in the field. He says, that is one of the reasons why, and it was the Marlins, they've been on our network for 4+ years and continue to give us more and more of their network. Actually, we are redundant in their building to ourselves. So we're providing our own redundancy to our own network within their building. And the relationship when it started was, well, we're going to go FiberNet and AT&T. This was 4 years ago. AT&T just finished the network into their building. We've been there for 4 years. They came to us 4 months later and said opening day, they had the first major event was the ballpark opening. The second major event was opening day of their season, which by then you would have thought that AT&T would have had their network up and running. They didn't. They gave us less than 3 weeks notice to bring in a diverse route into that building and bring them up so that we could secure opening day, and we did it. So as much as we've got these long install times and some bad things going on in the network where we have to wait for, permits from, from certain city people, there's some great stories and great things that we've done. And the beauty of once your client's on our network, 8 business days is the norm. Unless you're going from like 100 megs to a gig, that might take us maybe 30 days because depending on the equipment we have out there, we might need to switch it up. You'll also notice if you've worked with us, we put a gig port out there. That's our standard. I don't care if your client wants 10 megs or 100 megs, we're putting a gig port. Why do we do that? You just dial it up. And so it's so much easier for us. We don't want to roll the trucks. We don't want to have to go back and swap out equipment if we can just turn a dial. So there's we have run into though recently, because we are growing to the point that we've got a lot of aggregate points in our network, and those aggregate points could only maybe handle a gig or 10 gigs, and we've already hit that capacity. We will not oversubscribe our network. That's one thing that we just refuse to do. It's too important to us. It's our network. And so when we tell a client you're getting 100 meg commit rate, you're getting 100 megs. It's symmetrical and it's solid. And we'll test all day long with you guys. We'll test with your clients. And again, just here to kind of help.
Is that one of the reasons you're able to sell that burstable product?
So yes, but when we have the burstable, and one of the two of you need to try to get the presentation up for me if you don't mind. When we do put bursting, what we make sure, we always tell clients, okay, you got a 10 meg bursting to 30. We're only committing the 10 megs, right? I have a client that's on 100 megs bursting to 300, and he's pushing 180 on a regular basis, and he's never had a problem. But we don't guarantee anything above 100. So,
You don't charge them anything for it either.
well, it's a fixed rate.
10% premium on the port.
No, it's actually a fixed rate. So like on a 10 meg circuit, it's $100 for the ability to burst up to 30 megs. And we don't do it very often anymore on 100 megs, because what we have found is that our price point at 200 and 300 and 500, you might as well just go 500. And that's what we're seeing is clients, and you'll see us sometimes, you'll ask for a quote and we'll give you a couple of different flavors of it, right? And part of that is because what if they can afford that higher bandwidth? What if they want to add more applications? What if they wanted to do something different? Showing them that difference in that price point, they may choose to go with a bigger fixed rate or bursting. One of the things that we found is that clients don't like the unknown. They don't like not knowing what their bill is going to be every month. And so with our product under 100 megs, it's a fixed cost. So you're always going to pay that $100, but you're always going to know that you've got access to that bandwidth. You know, we've all gotten the cell phone bill where we went over our minutes. Ugh. You know, how do you budget for that? Especially a medium-sized business. How do you know what to budget for your bursting? I hate utilization-based bursting, and we do have it above the 100 meg mark. And I try to convince clients, and I always go back to pricing and say, give me a better price to give them a commit rate, because I really don't want them bursting. I want them to have that fixed rate. So,
Brenda, can I ask a question?
uh-huh.
Going back to the dual routes and the redundancy, so if I were quoting that giggy point-to-point
Mm-hmm.
client 2P10 right now, and he's looking for a redundant point-to-point
Absolutely.
DIA, he's ordering a giggy at peak 10, he's also going to order a redundant carrier. So from what I'm hearing from you, you can do these multiple routes and dual entry points where he wouldn't have to order that second carrier?
Yes.
So, but at the end of the day, if FPL's network went down, wouldn't that still be a
Yep.
problem?
It would be. But okay, so what have we done to make sure our network, okay, and
So
so,
is that, because you're saying don't think that old way of thinking. So
Right.
this client is about to order 12 grand worth of services
Mhm.
to build a redundant, but what you're saying is you could still have that fiber cut, which I'm sure he's aware of.
Yeah.
but I'm sure he's looking for that network redundancy. So in that scenario, would you be able to?
Did you say the customer was at peak 10?
yeah, they're at peak 10, which is already a protected, it's part of our core. And then his building itself, we have to look at it and say, you know,
You've
that,
already got service there, and you have a point. You have service.
Right.
This is your client.
so what we can do is from his building, we can make sure that he's route protected, so no fiber cut would take him down. We can also put redundancy in the equipment, so he has LACP lag. He has to have the equipment that can do the failover, but he'll never go down on the equipment piece. So when a client starts asking you guys for that redundancy and that carrier redundancy, you probably should get us on a call with an engineer and let us ask those questions to say, what are you trying to accomplish and can we do it differently? So I actually had two business partners in the same opportunity. So go back to the rules of engagement. It's not the first guy in. If two partners are wanting to bid on the same client, we let both partners into that opportunity. And a lot of partners have said, why do you do that? Well, what if you're partner number 2 and you've got the relationship? Do you want me to tell you no? But if I give you the exact same price point as the other guy, then you're selling your value add to that client. Our network is our network. You guys hopefully will learn how to sell it as well as the next guy. But there's things that every partner brings to the table that's different, you know, and therefore, why would we refuse to let you have that opportunity to add it to your solution? And so we're very cautious about making sure that we're giving you the opportunity if we can. Again, the only time that we can't is usually because the direct rep is already engaged and he's running with it. But we're here to help you sell, you know, and we're here to add that value and know our network and be able to tell the stories of what we've done for our customers. And eventually some of you guys will learn what our stories are and be able to tell your own. And one of the reps that was here earlier today, he's already left, you know, he came to us last year and he says, hey, I've got a data center that's going out of business, and I know that you guys are providing services to them. And I have 3 clients. I need to switch over to your network as soon as I can before they fail and they have no internet. And so we said, okay, yeah, let's talk about it. We got the contracts for the 3 sites. 2 of the sites we were able to bring onto our network within, I think, at about 30 to 45 day window. But the third one, we had some delays, and it was property manager type issues. And I thought I had communicated really well with our internal staff, and sure enough, we turned off that data center. And all of a sudden, I get a phone call from Paul going, what's going on? They're down. And I said, okay, let me check. Sure enough, we had sent them a cure letter. They didn't respond. We shut their network off. Within hours, we turned that network back on, knowing we would never get paid for the services that we were selling to that data center. But we made sure that that client kept his internet until we could provide it. Very unique, very different. Something that, again, wasn't sure we would do, but it was very cool that we did it for him. And he you know, and yes, we do. And hopefully, you know, we've proven to him that we're there for him. For those of you that don't know our network, 100% U.S.-based employees. How many of you have called into, a ticket, and you're not even sure who you're talking to, what company they really work for, because it's a call center? These are our employees. They work for us. They know our network. It's not a third party. They're in Doral. We actually have a backup knock in Winter Haven. We perform storm preparedness drills every year, and every employee from FiberNet becomes an emergency responder. So when the all cleared sign is sound, we actually are mobilized to repair fiber. I actually open up the knock in Winter Haven if we decide that we're going to man the network from there. Vicky's a runner, and Clarabelle, I'm not sure what assignment. So she's going to be a runner too. So we no longer become FiberNet. We become an emergency response team for our parent company, which is NextEra Energy. And a lot of people love to call us FPL. And FPL is part of our name, and it's part of our heritage, and we're proud of it, and it opens doors, and it's great. But we're not FPL. We're FPL FiberNet. NextEra Energy, or FPL, a couple of years ago said we're operating in 28 states. And F in our name isn't working when you're in New York and they're asking you what's the F stand for, and it's Florida Power and Light. And so what they asked, they came up with a new name, and it's called NextEra Energy. They operate in 28 states. They're about a $16 to $18 billion company. We're a subsidiary of them, just like our sister company, FPL, the utility. So, our president and my VP continues to remind me, everybody loves to call us FPL. Please call us FPL FiberNet or call us FiberNet. We own and operate the network. We can change and modify in 8 business days for the smaller bandwidth. We have very reasonable route protection. Sometimes it's like 50% of what they're already spending gives them that second path. So unless the second carrier is 50% of our cost, we can probably give them a better network than bringing in a second carrier. We actually have clients that are using our network to put voice over it, to go to the NAP, to get to Sprint, to get to level 3, and we put them on a protected route to the NAP because voice is critical. And if that circuit goes down, it could impact their business. One of the things that we also do is, I don't know how many of you guys know what USF is. It's a universal service fee. It's anywhere between 14 to 17%. It is expensive. If you have a network in the state of Florida, and I have a law firm that has 12 sites in Florida, and they don't send their traffic out to another state, they are not paying USF on that network, but they're writing voice over it. But the way that they're doing it is they're not connecting to the public switch system. They're doing that on a separate circuit with us so that they're only paying taxes on a 10 meg circuit instead of a gig over here. So if you've got a client that's spending $5,000 or $6,000 on their MPLS or VPLS network, and you want to add voice to that, don't add it to their primary network, add it to a separate network so that they only pay USF on that separate network. So it kind of some of the tricks of the trade that we've learned. Escalation. How many of you guys have gotten past your local rep when you're trying to escalate? We will actually provide you a list of every department head and their cell phone numbers and call them. You know, we hope that you'll never have to go beyond us, but there's a lot more people in our company other than the 3 of us supporting the channel. We've won all kinds of awards. That's what our NOC used to look like. It's all been renovated. There's our footprint. Law firms. Think about law firms. Where are they? Every metro in the state of Florida. I had a 12-site opportunity last year, and the only site we could not reach with our network was Pensacola. So we were able to connect to every site in every metro for this client. And he had started out 4 years ago saying, I want 10 megs, I want 50 megs. Oh, well, what about 100 megs? That client, when he signed last year, he signed with 250 megs bursting at every single site with VLAN internet to every site. So we are now providing them a network, and some of the sites have 3 gigs and other sites have a gig. And it was hard to even convince him not to go a gig in every site, because the guy got so excited about, wow, the things that I can do with this network, not being constrained to the traditional bandwidth that they had to buy before because they were using Sonnet, right? So a DS3 that's 45 megs, so you really were only being able to maybe push 40. We've taken that network and we've transitioned it over. They signed their contract in October and said, we don't want the services until June of 2015 because we're going to do a lot of ad moves and changes. And we said, fine, give us the paperwork now, let us get going on it in case we run into any stumbling blocks. We notified them in February, your network's ready, but we're just going to let it just sit here. We're not billing you for it. It's going to just kind of hang out. And when you're ready, let us know. And they're like, ooh, you mean we can have it early? And we said, well, if you want. We don't want you to get double billed. We don't want you to incur other costs. What do you want to do? And they said, we want all sites now. And they took them. And since then, they've submitted 4 other orders to change from one suite to the other. And we just continue to do whatever they need done to help them grow their business and not constrain them. So think about us when you're thinking of Texas. So what do we sell? What do we do? Oh, there's actually product behind all of this. Internet is probably the most popular thing that we're seeing through TCG. When I joined the company 8 years ago, probably the first 3 or 4 years, it was more VPLS networks, Ethernet. That was the big thing that we were selling. And internet was kind of like a side thing. I think it's flipped now, and probably 80% of our business is internet, and 20% is Ethernet. Internet, we have redundancy built into our network. We can, we go out of the NAP, we go out of Atlanta, we go out of Dallas. Failures, right? We were in a meeting yesterday with a client with Brad, and one of the things that they were talking about is, you're our secondary network. Our primary carrier has gone down 5 times in a year. And then the guy said, wait a minute, I've been here 3 years, and I don't think we've had an outage with you. And we're like, you might want to flip the network around, make us primary, let us put some redundancy into your network, and as you transition away, let us build it for you. And so that's one of the things we're going to do. Now, interesting enough, he's in a building in Miami that does not allow carriers to sell services. You have to go to the NAP and then do a cross-connect, and actually that cross-connect fee was more expensive than the network that we were selling them. But that's a building they chose to be in, so we'll help them out. We talked about bursting. We also do shared internet, and that's kind of a cool thing that I like to talk about when we're looking at like a 3-site opportunity. So we had this law firm that came to us, and they said, hey, we got 10 megs here and 10 megs there and 10 megs here, but it seems like every time this lawyer comes over to this office, we bottleneck, and we're having problems. And we said, well, you know what we can do is let's provide you a private network between the 3 sites, and then we'll put internet in the cloud. So instead of 30 megs, let's give you 100 that you can share between all sites. Now, you can rate limit it yourself in the network if you're an IT guy and you know how to do that. But guess what? That lawyer comes over here and he's in this office and he's gobbling up the bandwidth. Well, make sure that you carved out that 10 megs at least goes to the other 2 sites, but he can take the 80 megs that's left, right? And if he goes over here, same thing happens in your network. So it's a really cool thing that we've got a client of TCG's on that network, and it's working great because now they don't have that bottleneck because it's a shared amount of internet. Now they have to have firewalls on all 3 sites. So that's the only downside, but hey, if you sell equipment and you sell firewalls, good for you because now you can add 2 more firewalls to the network. And then we can VLAN internet. So let's say a client does have connectivity with us and we want to use that second port on our network interface device. We can put internet on that. So you do have a little bit of a port redundancy between it, even though the NID is one piece of equipment that could fail. So again, if your clients are looking for redundancy, let's talk about equipment redundancy. It's not that much more either.
So you'll VLAN the DIA?
Yes. And so the law firm that we had that was really big, one of the things that we said is if you're doing 250 megs bursting to 750, I really only have 250 left on that gig port, so that's what you're getting in internet, and we VLANed it over their network. It does not eat up the capacity that they bought. It's above that because the port is the gig. So if, let's say a client bought 500 megs of Ethernet, they've got 500 megs left for whatever else they want to add to it. We had a car dealership that was in Miami that had internet with us, and they had an office in Claremont and in Sanford. And they said, hey, what about you connecting us to them? We're having a lot of problems with our carriers up there. And we said, well, unfortunately, Claremont, you don't have a lot of options, right? There's one guy. So I said, but what we can do is we can take over that network and we can manage it ourselves. And we will do all the troubleshooting and we'll figure out what's not working in their network. And so what we ended up doing is providing them a point to multi-point so that those 2 sites could talk. We also bought 20 megs of capacity from that other carrier, and we gave them 10 megs of internet and 10 megs of data transport. And then we managed that whole thing in our network. And after, when we first started, we had some issues with the other carrier and not getting it to work. It's now been 3 years, and it's running smoothly. DDoS. So we're seeing a lot of clients, mostly government and education, being attacked. But we're also seeing some commercial entities being attacked. This is where they go in and they flood your network. So you've got 100 megs, they're going to push 1,000, and you're not going to get any traffic through. I have a customer that approached us the other day, and he says, hey, you know what, for redundancy, we actually had bought InterNAP at the NAP, and we're looking at DDoS, and it's really expensive, and they told us how much, and they said, so what can you guys do? And I said, you know what, go out and get your own AS number, come back to us, we'll give you 100 megs at the NAP with our DDoS, and you can ride both networks, and if you start getting an attack on InterNAP's network, route it through our network and we'll clean it up for you. So it's kind of cool, and when I went to Susan with that, she's like, what do you, and I said, yeah, it'll work.
If I may, to just with regards to DDoS, right, there's a big perception that, let's say specifically in the SMB space, that, well, I'm a small business and I'm not necessarily going to get attacked. And that's fine and good. You may not necessarily get attacked, but there's a lot of small business customers that are hijacked as part of botnets, right? The botnets are what the bad guys use to launch those attacks. And so this actually prevents that as well. So it's not just protection from being attacked, which could destroy, a lot of your performance, but also if you are part of a botnet because some of the computers within your network have been hijacked, let's say, when they start to be, let's say, called for the attack, they can affect performance as well. So it's really from both perspectives, not only just blocking that malicious traffic, but also preventing, some internal to out participants within that malicious traffic. So this is really something that's good for not just people who are worrying about being attacked, but people who don't want to have their bandwidth be affected by either a botnet or being attacked by a botnet.
Yeah, one question. So when you see that, Is that at your, at your CO, you see the malicious traffic?
Yes.
Going back and forth,
Yep.
and now when you, alarm goes off, right?
Yeah, so that's the beauty of it. These filters, these scrubbers, right, are in our network, right? So this filtration is occurring at the edge of our network. So let's say malicious traffic is bound for a customer, well, that would get stopped. So bandwidth would remain unaffected.
And most firewalls customers are using don't have this level of protection or have
Correct.
firewalls with not, that don't have latest software updates and so forth. But wouldn't you agree that this would be too expensive for SMB customers?
It all
to afford?
depends.
It all depends.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wait
do you
until
see
they
that?
get hit
I'm asking,
once.
so do you
Right.
No, I'm asking, do you
Yeah.
sell this to SMB customers?
I think we're in the,
Since you're
yeah.
mentioning it's a good fit, I'm just asking, because an SMB customer doesn't typically pay for a cloud type, security
It really
service.
sincerely depends, right?
But you
Because
do
it takes
have-
one person, it takes a customer to have had that negative experience.
Agreed, 100%, doesn't matter how small or big you are, but do you sell this into your SMB?
Where we're seeing it mostly is on the 100 meg and gig clients.
That's what I wanted to
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not seeing it downstream as
No.
much because, again, they really can't afford it. But you always have to translate it back into what does it cost your business for that one day or those X amount of hours,
And
right?
do carriers like Level 3 also offering this type of service?
Yes.
How do you compete or how do you compare your service to that?
So our service is basically powered by Arbor Networks, right? So Arbor Networks is one of the big players in terms of the security and DDoS mitigation providers on the internet. So I'm not exactly sure. I don't know Level 3's platform. I don't know if it's homegrown or if they subscribe externally as
I was
well.
just curious.
Yeah, what we did is we went out and said, we're not the experts in who can be, especially with the amount of attacks. So what we did is, we've had it for about a year.
Thanks, by the way.
Yeah, so one of the things we did is said, let's go get the experts and have them in our network. And so they know the traffic patterns. They can see, hey, we saw that, this client always gets, this type of traffic, and then all of a sudden they see a shift. I've had a client that's experienced it, and I've lived through the emails of, hey, this is going on. I actually had a customer that the attacks were originating from their network out, and that we mitigated really quick also.
Are you layering on top of this managed service like Alert Logic or anything on top of this? You sell that service product, or you just clean up here?
It's just
Whenever
mitigation.
Okay, mitigation. So then the customers they have to make sure they clean up, make sure
Oh,
they're
yeah.
in the network.
So
That's a different
Yeah.
product or service. You don't do that.
So when we did a lunch and learn, I think it was in February or March, one of your partners brought in a client, and we just had a situation where it was a hotel on the beach, and someone must have gotten into their network and was using it to go grab Sony's film or something. And so we had to go and talk to them and mitigate it and explain to them what they needed to do, because we can't have that happening in our network, right? That IP address is associated to them. That's why we make you guys do a lot of registration of the IPs, because we have to mitigate that. We can't afford to allow bad intent either direction. Now, it wasn't the client. It was someone in their hotel or someone on the street that somehow got access to that network. That's why hotels are kind of protected about how much bandwidth they really put in their hotels, because this guy bought some good sized bandwidth and probably someone took advantage of it. Ethernet, point to point, means 2 points. They talk to each other. Point to multi-point. Everybody has different naming conventions. I've heard hub and tell, that type of thing. We can design it however you want. You want 2 hubs in your network, everybody talks to those 2 hubs for redundancy. We'll do that. We can build it however you guys, again, throw away the traditional, come to us and say, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did it this way, and see if we can do it. Latency jitter, we were talking yesterday about that, and it was kind of a cool thing. In Weston, when we were competing with someone, we were going from Weston to peak 10, and our latency was less than 5 milliseconds, and we were getting beaten up by the client. How dare you? I need better performance than that. So we finally, someone in the account said, hey, let's go look up the other competitor and let's see what their latency was. 15 milliseconds one way. So 30 round trip. We're like, why have we been having this conversation for the last 3 months about our 5 milliseconds wasn't good enough? So latency in our network, because we're not hopping all over the place, we don't have an old network that we've pieced together or we've acquired other people's network. We have a pure fiber network that we continue to monitor. We're constantly looking at the spectrums, making sure that we don't have fiber degradation in our network. You'll see that we always alert our clients when we're going to work on their fiber, even if we're not bringing them down. If we're working on fiber close to their fiber, we just tell them, hey, we're doing a maintenance. It may or may not affect you, but we want you to know about it. We try to do them after hours so that it's not service impacting. Some of my clients have said, wow, I see a lot of these. Well, guess what? Some of the other carriers don't let you know, and they just bring your network down. We rather let you know that, hey, we're doing this work, and we do it mostly because we want to make sure high reliability is what we're known for. Again, a lot of value-added features that bring us in. We can sell it. This is the connect to the cloud. Again, we're going to bring a private network to these providers. We're seeing a huge trend. What's kind of cool and what's new about our company is the product manager that came to us a year ago was the IT director at Georgia Tech. So she was an end user for a large university, highly technical university. The think tanks that were going on in Georgia Tech, and I used to live in Alpharetta, and my son actually did some things at Georgia Tech. Super cool, cutting edge. And she came to work for us, which is, to me, one of the best things. She's actually going to be speaking tomorrow to a whole bunch of us. But she's the one that said, this is one of the biggest things we need to do, and we need to do it now. Because I'm sick and tired as an end user watching that little thing go round and round and round. And as Microsoft and Google and all these other, Amazon get more and more ingrained in the end user base, if we don't find a good way to get our clients with high productivity for their employees, we've missed the boat. And so this is one of the first products. She said, we will have it, and we'll have it now. And so I'm so glad she's done it. I'm talking to some of my clients right now that are using the different means, which is internet right now. That's the only way to get to these providers. Some of the other providers they're slowly letting us all in so that we can do that private connection. And these are all the different ones that we'll be able to help you with. So, kind of whoops, I thought I silenced this. Sorry about that. So that's our team. When you're requesting quotes from us, please send it to partners@fplfibernet.com. One of the things I always try to do is make sure that one of the three of us is sitting behind a desk at any given time. This is the first time there's three of us in a room and we're not replying to quotes. We also staff sometimes earlier in the day and later in the day so that we try to give you guys a bigger window of us turning things around. Dan's notorious for sending us stuff at 11 o'clock at night, and we'll start a little email conversation going, and trying to get stuff accomplished before you guys get back in the office the next day. Make sure you do put TCG or copy your channel manager at TCG, because sometimes we've met you, we've dealt with you once, but we're not sure. It's like, whoa, wait, and Clarabelle's newer with our group, and she's only been here 120 days, and she'll come to us and say, oh, who do they buy through, and we're not sure. We don't have a lot of masters in our program. One of the things Dan and I, when we met about 3.5 years ago, we were kind of like, well, we're going to do this or we're not going to do this, and we decided we would do it, and we're so glad we did. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure that the sub-agents knew is use us. contact us. We're part of your sales arm. We can be an asset. We can tell the story. You know, Vicky's been working on a client with one of the sub-agents where he's just getting a copy of the service order that he may or may not even known that was coming. I've got a large healthcare provider that the guy calls me. He doesn't call the partner anymore, but I know he's working with the partner. So the partner gets a copy of the service order when it comes in. So wow, you guys just extended your company by 3 people, you know, and a couple of sales engineers. You know, we're here to help. There's no network out there that we're not willing to talk to you about. In fact, we've got one from New Jersey, and we know we can't do New Jersey yet. But keep them coming, because how did we get to Atlanta? How did we get to Virginia? How did we get to Texas? Because clients asked us to. I have circuits in Ohio, you know, because my client said, I want your knock. I have to have your knock manage my network. Vicky's got a client now saying, take me to California. We're like, okay, we'll take you to Texas on our network, and at Waco, we'll hand it off to somebody else. But we'll take you as far as we can within our network, but you call our knock. You call the guys that are sitting in Doral, and they will manage that network for you. Any questions? Any?
Do you ever run any promos for clients or partners or anything near?
So we are doing the contest, you know, that if you do the 6K, but what we would ask you to do, because we're not your typical carrier, right? And we don't do all the, Clarabelle came over from AT&T and she's like, okay, you guys did this product launch and there was no woohoo, and it's like, yeah, we don't do that here. We're very conservative.
Right.
Bring us, if a client says, I really want FiberNet, and we're on net or near net, and you've got a competitive quote, bring it to us and say, match it. And let us take it to pricing and let's see. I don't want to be that low cost provider, because to me there's, you know, we could outsource. We could take our call center to Malaysia or Indonesia or India. We could, but we chose not to. And the reason we chose not to is we wanted the people answering that phone to know our network inside out and be part of our core. And because of that, you're gonna have to spend a little bit more for this network. And it's okay. And we've had situations where we've, you know, been engaged with a client and said, unfortunately, no, we can't get there. But we're here if you ever need us. And we've turned some clients down, and then they've come back to us, and they've gone with somebody else, and they've tried it, you know, and then they've said, hey, that didn't really work for me. We're coming back, right? And I rather say no. You know, I know that TCG keeps on asking, do you have 5 megs? And no, we don't. 10 megs is what we have, right? And what we're finding is the 10 meg of the past is now 100 megs, and we're just growing it. If you've got schools that are deploying iPads, they don't have to buy 100 megs today. They can go 30, 50, 100, 200. Let us grow with you and grow with your client. If we start them at a 10 meg circuit, we've got a pharmacy that called me yesterday, and he's like, hey, we're ready to, you know, we got the 2 sites, we're talking to each other, and now we want to kind of see what our utilization is, because we want to increase it. And we want to, and interesting enough, they just have 2 internet circuits, and they're doing their own tunneling between the 2 sites. And so I said, that's great. And he says, but do I have to do 50 here and 50 there? And I said, no, you can have 50 and 30. You can have 130. You tell us, you know, how many how many employees do you have at the one pharmacy versus the other? What's the traffic patterns? And so we're working on that right now, running a utilization report for him so that he can determine, he doesn't have to buy it all tomorrow. And oh, by the way, if Vicky's had one that they've sent us 3 increases in 3 months. We haven't even finished one of the increases before they increased it again. Those are great. Love it. We'd love to have clients that are growing at the speed of light, which is what our network does. We're about to put in 100 gig backbone throughout the entire state of Florida and Texas. I have a client that just ordered a 10 gig circuit up into QTS in Atlanta. And it pushed us over the edge to say, you know what, it's time. Let's increase it to 100 gigs. because we're starting to see more and more 10 gig clients and protected all the way up to Atlanta. That's not easy to find a carrier that has that kind of bandwidth that can do that, and so we've done it. So we're here to help. Let us know.
Just to throw in my 2 cents, guys, from my experience with FPL, a few things that separate them from a end user standpoint. And I don't know if you mentioned this, I was walking in and out a few times, but the biggest thing compared to everybody else is that tool, even though we only saw a few that were near the network, when you send it up, I mean, within an hour or two, you know exactly where their fiber is. They tell you we're competitive, we're not. We're there, we're not. We're going to be able to or not. The on-net thing, they tell you right away. Great news. Clarabelle's great about that, right? We're on net. We're good to go on this one, right? They deliver directly to the suite, which is huge compared to most of the AT&Ts and most of the CLECs that use AT&T's fiber. They usually go, especially on a high-rise building, they go to the central room and the customer is responsible for that Cat 5 run or whatever it is that you're running. They go directly to suite if they're lit in the building, which are 2 huge selling points, because when you sit down, and I'm the type that presents multiple carriers to the customer, when I sit down and I show them everybody's number and say, hey, by the way, FPL is only $50 or $100 or whatever it is, but you're not going to have to eat up this cost. So that's a huge thing. And then third is exactly what she said about their response times. You know, these guys work through hurricanes. These guys are on it, and in the end, FPL's fiber is built it was originally built to support the FPL facilities around the state. So it isn't like this is just Joe Schmo running fiber, you know, doing whatever. These guys are supporting their own network through that fiber. So you know, forget about your customers. They're not going to go down because they got to obviously keep their customers up. But their support overall it really separates them. So I mean, anybody that hasn't worked with them, give them one shot and you'll see exactly why everybody raves about them.
Well, thank you. Yeah, because it's taken us a while to convince Miguel to let us in, and I'm so glad he did.
Guillermo said you lower my electricity bill?
No. So remember, they're a totally separate company from us. Yeah, they won't even give us a lower rate. In fact, they beat it. I had a situation where we had fiber in the ground, and it was actually for the Marlins, and they decided they were going to put a light post, like right there. And I said, you can't do that. We have fiber in the ground. We've got opening day coming up. You can't do that. Oh, yes, boom. Yes, they could. They didn't care it was us. I mean, so we ended up having to take our fiber up and around so we don't get any special treatment because we're part of their, their weave. So, how was your meeting today? Did it go well? Appreciate you letting us come in and meet face to face with the client. That's what we're here for. Hopefully Eddie, helped uncover some additional things and made the client feel a little bit more comfortable. The beauty of introducing us into your accounts is also we're the account team. So if they ever call our 800 number and you've already introduced Vicky, Brenda, Clarabelle, most likely they're going to ask for Vicky, Brenda, or Clarabelle, and we're going to let you guys know that they asked, and we're going to call the client, have the conversation, and then call you and say, hey, I just had the conversation, it went really well. I mean, Ira, has it helped to have Vicky kind of work in that account with you? And yeah, so I mean, it's phone calls and time that Ira doesn't have to spend taking care of a client that we truly appreciate him bringing to the table. And if we can grow it with you, we'd love to grow it with you. So again, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
I really hate to throw you a negative at the end.
Yep.
But
go ahead.
You guys have that product that the direct reps are selling that you still won't let us sell. That little $300 one IP 10 meg product that I've lost business quoting FPL directly.
Yes.
I've lost to your direct reps who are selling your $300 program.
So
we cannot sell.
So it's not a negative because guess what? About 3 weeks ago, I was in Dan and Lou's office, and they twisted my arm to the point that we will let you sell it, I don't remember what we agreed on as far as payout, so we'll have to make sure, because I can't remember what it was. Oh, I do now, yeah. You can sell it and you get normal comp for it. So, it has, and it's only certain buildings. So, the problem with that product, it has no service level agreement, or it has minimal, right? It's still our network. It only comes with one IP, right? So when a client needs more than one IP, guess what? They're going to have to they're going to have to go to premium. Let us try to discount our premium to get closer, right? Is what I would recommend. And it's only in our on-net buildings where we already have fiber. So, but now, thanks to you and many others, we finally.
We quote the right product, they go in and undercut us and sell.
Right.
And then essentially, you can't run VoIP on it either.
Yeah. We don't recommend it because of the no SLAs.
No, but you're saying that it's 10 megs.
It is 10 megs.
You can't run VoIP for 10 phones or.
Well, okay, so what we try to do is never sell something that there could be fingers pointed. Since it's a non-SLA product, it's best effort. It's not committed rate like our premier service. So we say anytime you're doing voice over the internet, you need to go with a service level, product that's going to give you the, committed rate and not the best effort.
So what is this product? 10 meg for $300? That's what it is?
It's like $365 or something like that. And again, it's only on certain buildings. What we prefer that you guys do is bring us the competitive threat and let us go back to pricing, try to get our premier close to that.
To sell against Comcast is really
Right.
what it comes down to.
Right.
So if we're going to lose to Comcast and we want a real network, it's better to go to you than to lose it to Comcast.
But we're hoping that clients understand there's a huge difference between Comcast coax and Comcast fiber, right?
Yeah.
But there are clients that can't afford us, right? And they can't afford Comcast fiber. And they're looking for an alternative. We do have that product.
You don't like to sell it?
We don't like to
Sorry for
sell it,
bringing up,
but
it's just I've lost a lot of deals.
no. And Lou kind of whispered in my ear in the back, "You're going to talk about it," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm going to try to keep it,
So guys, I want to throw one more point. So FPL FiberNet, they open doors. Like, it's a different conversation than coming in there with the typical carrier that you might sell on a day-to-day basis. When you say, look, I want to show you an FPL FiberNet solution, people are like, FPL FiberNet? So it opens doors. So use it on customers. I mean, there are customers that we've gotten that had no interest in some of the other brand names that were thrown out, but once the agent had the conversation about FPL FiberNet, it just opened that door, and they're like, wow, I didn't even know that was an option. Come on in, let's talk about it.
Especially down here in Florida, you're not going to be able to find any other carrier that will say, come to our knock. They're
Yeah.
going to say, fly out to our knock, right? Go somewhere else to the customer. But a customer that's in Doral, when you tell them, hey, come to the FPL facility in the heart of Doral, and you know how much business is over there, it's a no-brainer.
I don't know if Danny told everyone, I'm gonna be at that knock thing tomorrow morning. They're having that knock event.
Right.
I know you said you are. I don't know
Yep.
if
One
anybody else
other
here wants
thing.
to go, but.
If you do go on our interactive site online to look up an address and see if it's closed, do not put a customer's name in there, because that will go to our inside sales and immediately go to one of the reps. So put in either your name or.
No, put TCG or
TCG.
just send us an email.
The address, if they're smart enough, they just go back and find the client.
Yeah, so
Just so we don't
go
use
to
that
our
tool.
channel.
Just come to us. What?
Don't even hit that website.
So,
I'm sure the sales manager and people out there has already figured it out, so.
yeah, the other thing is, what isn't on that map is our current bills that are not completed. So the map could tell you an incorrect data. In fact, we find it all the time. I had one this morning that I sent up and said, guys, this is on net. It's been a client for 3 years. Change it, and we get it changed. So we're an email away. I mean, go to the map if you want to just kind of take a look at what the fiber footprint looks like in the area. But we're a phone call or an email away from, and now I've learned that you can actually use instant message, send your email address, and we can actually share our screen and show you guys the fiber route if we need to. So And maybe we need to get some, you know, what PGI had or something so we can do more of that. So bring the stories. Tell us, the more you tell us about what you're trying to accomplish with the client, the more, you know, we're not just a quote desk is what I'm trying to get through to everybody. And that's what we've become to a certain extent on some of them. You just send us the thing and we just send you the quote, right? Where you need us to be more compelling or more passionate about your client because you're passionate about them, bring them to us and let's see what we can do. Because we're here.
And they're winning, so get them involved. All right, guys, much appreciated.
Oh, Jennifer has giveaways, so.